Hello there, and welcome back to Stripe's Talking Points. And in this episode, we're going to talk very briefly about uh, fake news, how to make a story fit the narrative you want it to be, and how to basically ignore facts and reality. And in this, Trump speaks with governors about Hurricane Dorian. That's full coverage from Google News. And you see it called Sharpie-gate. I don't know if you know this, but Trump had an image of a Hurricane Dorian that he snagged off the off this side here, National Hurricane Center and Central Pacific Hurricane Center. That was the forecast for it. You can see it here in this image, and you can see there. And then there's this little mark on it where people drew along the coastline because people do stuff like that when they're talking. And there it is. Here's Snopes. Did Trump display an altered hurricane map showing Alabama in its path? The answer, true. Yes, he did. He drew this hurricane map based on a graphic he received from there and just did a little extra projection as it crosses through the U.S. Now, first off, I'd like to show you this. These are actual images of hurricanes and what happens. Don't know if you know this, but a hurricane doesn't touch the U.S. soil, dump its rain, and stop. Hurricanes move through the U.S. They move across the land. They become tropical storms, then tropical depressions, but these are massive storms. I've lived in this region of the country most of my life, and I can tell you right now that all of the middle of the country get flood advisories when hurricanes come through. There's huge rainfall, lots of damage, storm damage, high winds, all kinds of stuff happens away from the coast as well. It's not just, they don't just hit one spot and then stop. And you can see from multiple images here, I'm going to make this one bigger, that hurricanes cross the U.S. When they hit the coast, they go up through the country and out. They go from being large hurricanes to just slow-moving torrential rain patterns. And in this, which is still a story several days later, and I don't know why, the graphic displayed by President Trump appeared to be a dated screen capture from time-lapse National Hurricane Center graphic that charted Dorian's probable path. It contained a black mark that misleadingly showed the storm's projected path heading deep into Alabama. If the storm hits the U.S., what is the historical fashion that these storms take? They hit the U.S., get caught by the Gulf Stream, and then push back out across the U.S. You don't see a lot of storms hit Florida and then immediately drop back in, hit Mexico. No. They're pushing north all the time because Trump decided to show that the storm would hit here, and then, as is traditionally possible, the storm was going to start pushing up into the U.S. and go out. This is now a massive story. Here's the actual video. We're going to go through this real quick of where it starts. You know, this is where it is. This is where they think it's going. And you can watch as it comes up towards the U.S. You see here, you see this plausible thing where it's moving up. I think it's going to hit the Bahamas, going to Florida. This is where they predict. This is where it is. You can see them slowly move it. Looks destined to hit the U.S. You see there, it's going to hit Florida. And then just rain all across here. You can kind of see Trump's graphic right there. It's going to hit here. And you know what? If hurricane hits Central Florida and then crosses Florida, historically, they don't go back into that's not going to show it. They don't just drop back into the Gulf. They continue north. That's kind of how all these patterns go. They hit, they move north, hit, move north. The one in Houston where it just shows it stop, turned into a tropical storm, to a depression, went this way. This is how it works. Go up into the US, move across. Go up to the US, move across. Yeah, so, yeah. Trump had a map saying, hey, it's going to hit here, and then probably go north. Someone just drew there. And did Trump say this is going to destroy Alabama?
We thought we'd give you and it took a right turn. And ultimately, hopefully, we're going to be lucky. It depends on what happens with South Carolina and North Carolina. And it took a right turn. Not only Florida, but Georgia. It could have was going toward the Gulf. That was what was originally projected.
Going towards the Gulf as originally projected, yes. And then you can see that the projections change as it starts coming into Grand Bahamas. You see them slowly decide going the other way. So he took an old prediction and said, hey, this is where they think it's going, and now you see it's moving after decimating the Bahamas. Goes up the Central Coast, hits South Carolina, and is slowly moving out. But yeah, this is still a story. This is still 3 hours ago, yesterday, 7 hours ago, 4 hours ago. There you go. You saw about how long he talks about it.
And it took a right turn. And ultimately, hopefully, we're going to be lucky. It depends on what happens with South Carolina and North Carolina.
That's it. You just saw there in a few seconds what he was talking about. He holds up a map. He probably drew on it and said, do you think something's going to happen here? They was like, no, it's kind of heading north now. Going to take a right turn, go up. And there you go. For days and days and days, you even got this Pete Buttigieg, someone that I feel sorry for because he is having a lot of problems in his home city, saying he feels sorry for the president. I can't get by these stories that are completely meaningless. And of course, once something happens, Trump has to jump in and defend his stuff. Even if he doesn't defend himself, it doesn't matter. They'll act like he did. This is the entire briefing. Here we go. Some critics accuse the White House of altering an official weather graphic to retroactively justify an earlier tweet by Trump that stated Alabama would be among the states hit much harder than anticipated by Dorian. Trump's September 1st tweet forced the National Service to correct the record and clarify Alabama would not be affected by the powerful hurricane. It's not a story anymore. When Dorian was aiming towards the US, all of this was a big deal because if it ever curved back, and you see they're not sure, they don't know, they just kind of see where it's going. Keep arcing it to the US, and then finally you get the reprieve. And then it turns. If it had have hit Central Florida, it would have pushed up. The National Weather Service, unfortunately, is not always right. And can this story please just die? I hate having to talk about idiot stuff like this, but it's meaningless. This is a meaningless story. Trump held up a map, talked about it for a few seconds, actually said it looks like it's turning right, and now it's still in the news days and days later. When asked by a reporter about the map, which looked like someone took a Sharpie marker and drew on it, Trump, who frequently accuses news of proffering fake news, responded, I don't know. It was a tiny little thing drawn on it. If they had shaded all of the US north of that, it would have been just, hey, it could rain here after this hurricane hits. Hurricanes don't stop. They continue to move as a storm front. Oh, sorry. Although we don't yet know who altered the map because it doesn't matter. displayed during Trump's September 4th hurricane briefing. We know the image and the purported hurricane path it represents are not found in publicly available time-lapse graphic. Because once it stops being a hurricane, they don't track it as much. It's just a tropical storm or a tropical depression or any one of those other types of things. None of this matters. Did someone draw on a piece of paper? Yes. Does it matter in the slightest right now? No. Did it matter then? No. Because if Hurricane Dorian had landed in Florida, it would have rained everywhere north of there. I just said everywhere, being hyperbolic. It would have rained as the hurricane was pushed out. You'd have had flooding in Florida, torrential downpours in Georgia, possibly leading to flooding in Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky. I know a lot of the states around there. And, you know, that's it. It would have flooded all up through this area as the storm is pushed north. There's Florida and out. So forgive me if I don't care that Snopes has decided this is true, that someone drew on a map, because you can easily look at the picture and see, yes, there's a drawing on the map. Could have had lines all north of there. Rainfall. It would have happened. None of this matters. It's a stupid story. I just wanted to cover it because I wanted to get out of my head. As far as all you guys, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Do you think it matters that someone drew on a map showing something that could possibly happen, even though now it hasn't happened? Do you believe that hurricanes, as soon as they make landfall, are no longer important? That never ever has it flooded at the outskirts after a hurricane has made landfall? I can tell you that that is wrong. And do you think this should still be a story? Because, again, it's completely meaningless. It was mostly meaningless at the time because in the video there you saw it's 50 seconds. He said, hey, it's going to take a right turn, and it depends on how it hits South Carolina and up the coast. I think that's great news because, again, it moving away from the U.S. To me is very good. I'm glad to see that it's not going to impact the mass of the U.S. It's not going to be destroying as much, since it does seem to be skirting up the coastline, and then hopefully we'll move out away from populated areas and will stop being a huge threat. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll see some real news.